Welcome to Community Connections, brought to you by Synapcity, featuring conversations, stories, and interviews with Ottawa's leading changemakers. Enjoy this episode. Welcome into a brand new episode of Community Connections, brought to you by Synapcity. On today's episode, we're very excited to welcome entrepreneurial founder and the newest board member of Synapcity, Shairf Virani, to chat about what inspires him and what keeps him going, creating change. Hey everybody, welcome into a brand new episode of Community Connections, brought to you by Synapcity, and I'm very excited to be joined by a very special guest, a change maker in his own right. We today have Shairf Virani in the house, and Shairf is also Synapcity's newest board member, so we're going to get chatting about that. And Shairf, he's a 3 times founder, a creative enabler, and fractional chief marketing officer with a firm belief in an entrepreneurial and creative approach to digital problem solving, and we're definitely putting them into that in Synapcity. His past e-commerce experience in digital marketing, public press relations has developed into a capacity for evolving plans and crafting compelling campaigns aimed at achieving measurable results in the implementation of growth marketing, social media, and creative content brands. More recently, he's focused his career towards development focused specifically on projects and initiatives designed for measurable maximum social impact. And so that's where we get him over at Synapcity. So I want to welcome you in, Shairf, to our podcast. How you doing?
Not too bad. Thanks for that kind introduction. And I think you could probably tell that that little blurb has been workshopped uh, as a comms professional many times. So thank you. It's a sample of my little.
Yeah, well, when I was researching on you and obviously getting to know you over the time, you've got a wealth of experience in different startups. You've got, so much different things going on where you've got your sort of hands in different plates. And I'm excited to chat with you a little bit more. Why don't we start off at the top? I know you're an environmental scientist. That's kind of where you studied. You've got loads of experience founding new projects and initiatives, and we'll talk a little bit about those. But tell us about your beginnings in entrepreneurship and how that kind of veered over from environmental science.
Um, huge advocate of the sciences. I'm very passionate about it. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a scientist. I ended up pursuing that in university. But what I recognized during schooling was that there was a real gap on the emphasis placed in STEM education on public facing, communications, so like marketing basically, or advocacy, and the business development side of the sciences. And so I really leaned into pursuing that a little bit. But to go back a little bit further, even my grandfather was actually an entrepreneur in East Africa. My family's from North Africa, and he used to have a coffee plantation there. Unfortunately, he ended up losing the coffee plantation, so or farm rather. So business can go good and business can go bad. But I guess the entrepreneurship gene kind of really started with him, and I was always fascinated by that journey. And unfortunately, I never got to meet him, but I was always told stories about him and how he was a local entrepreneur and respected in the business community. And so that always got my wheels turning there. And my father, while he's not an entrepreneur, really has an entrepreneurial mindset. He's managed his own little real estate portfolio, but he also helps empower entrepreneurs. And that's been a box that I try to check in my day-to-day consulting business. And so he's a financial controller for a small business owned by a family, second generation or third generation almost now. And so he helps empower those entrepreneurs in their day-to-day bookkeeping and financial part of that operation. So early on, I started realizing, or not early on, actually, this might be a little later on in life, I started realizing that entrepreneurial, you don't have to be on the cap table to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be a shareholder. It's more of a mindset. And so my personal thesis statement that you alluded to there is that I'm a firm advocate and believer in an entrepreneurial and creative approach to digital problem solving. That's what I workshop my personal thesis statement. That's a little bit of the marketing there. But something that's come from my journey as an entrepreneur at the start, I realized, you have an idea and you turn it into a business. I have a lot of entrepreneurs starting out. Now I'm a little bit more been through the school of hard knocks and the hard way and learned some lessons. But now I realize that a real entrepreneur identifies a problem and turns the solution into a business. So that's what I try to practice now. But that's how that journey started. So through environmentalism, you're working with NGOs. Budgets are stretched, and you have to come up with creative approaches to solving problems day to day. You know that at Snap, we do that all the time, right? Especially in the nonprofit sector. And so that's kind of how that thirst for an alternative method of problem solving started. And then entrepreneurialism jumped in, and that became the entrepreneurial approach. And so that's how my whole thesis statement became creative and entrepreneurial approach to digital problem solving. But yeah, I see entrepreneurialism as a mindset, and really that stems from that lack and that gap that I found in the STEM education system, sciences, on the practicality of business and science applications. You're always told that you can become a researcher or a government worker or go to med school. But when I participate in the mentor program at Ottawa U, which I try to do every year, the question I always get is, what else can I do? And there's no reason why they haven't never talked about, or they're starting to now. They're just, in the past 2 years, they have Ottawa U Hub for Entrepreneurship and which I'm really proud to be chatting with, potentially doing some work with. But prior to that, when I was in school, they didn't have that. So that's kind of how that journey started.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that it was kind of bred in your family. Amazing story about your grandfather. And kind of, we hear that a lot on Community Connections when we ask about people's backgrounds is, hey, my family, my mom, my grandfather was this, and sort of it continues on in the lineage. And I love some of the work that you've been doing to kind of create an entrepreneurial science kind of thing, and getting that mindset, right? Because as we leap forward in science, we need to have that entrepreneurial mindset to kind of take on some of those different things. So that's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about marketing then, which you've kind of phased into, and you've got a lot of marketing experience. I'm wondering, like, how did you get passionate about helping small and medium enterprises market themselves? Was there sort of like one thing where you said, okay, I want to help them get to market, or was it just you found a need in the sort of small, medium enterprises and NGOs to kind of market themselves better? I know I see that quite a bit. Where did that come from for you?
So that's definitely part of it. The other part is, I was fortunate enough to be exposed to tech at an early age. My dad's a huge tech aficionado, and so there was always different computers that I was tinkering with at home, and he worked a lot, to be honest with you. So if he wasn't there, I had to figure it out, and that's kind of how I started to fool around on the internet. But me and my dad, we email back and forth. That's our preferred method of communication. So tech is very live and it's very much alive. But on the other side, the storytelling side, so the marketing side, I was pretty heavily influenced by my aunt and uncle, who have a production studio in Ottawa called JPC. He's related to Christopher Plummer, my uncle. So the arts is really prominent on that side of the family. And my aunt's a pretty well-known female Arab documentary producer in Canada. And so that storytelling aspect got really ingrained in me at a young age. I used to spend summers there, I did like co-ops there. So that's always been in the back of my head. So that when I talk about public communications and the sciences, it's really an exercise in storytelling. It's almost like documentary, really, right? You're telling people why it's relevant, and you have to make it exciting. And so as a personal goal, I always try to do three things in most of my interactions, and that's really like educate, engage, and empower. And so I say excite, because when someone's excited, they can get educated really easily. And like I harken back to like that high school teacher that you had, that kind of, the one that did, like, everyone knows that kind of high school teacher, maybe your drama teacher, or you had that one science guy that's doing lots of experiments. And the more excited you are about things, the more prone you are to absorbing that information and that education. So I always say excite instead of educate is one of my three things. And then the engage part, engaging people in conversation and knowledge collisions, which is a new term that I've kind of been throwing around, as you know, is a form of self-learning. So I love to do that as well. So engaging people is something great. And then empowering people, it's kind of like an act of service as well. So a long-winded way to say this is, when you're in the sciences, you don't necessarily have to be in the medical field to perform an act of service. Medicine can come in different forms. It can come in assisting someone medically with pills, or it can come in helping someone express their story on paper through marketing and story. That's a form of service and medicine as well. You're empowering them to tell their story. So marketing checks those three boxes for me. So that's why I was like, okay, I'm gonna lean into this a bit. And then of course it aligned with that STEM to STEAM kind of thing that I talked about on my professional side. So it was a really great marriage of both of them. And that's kind of how the marketing thing happened. And as a young kid, I was really fortunate. Those people that remember the Museum of Civilization, I think it's called, had a children's exhibit with a pyramid in it, and I got to participate in that exhibit, and I was a little Egyptian kid and as a hologram in that pyramid. And so seeing the intersection of technology and storytelling, and like how that can affect marketing at a young age. I think I was like 8 or something. It was like astounding to me. And then my friends would go and they say, I saw you as a hologram at the museum. And they're like, that exhibit was really cool. And they remember the exhibit, right? So I was like, oh, this is really interesting. You can use technology to really create an exciting communicative experience with people, and they absorb that information and they learn. So it's marketing. And then why I ended up in the restaurant side of the equation, really actually two simple answers. Is one, I have a really diverse background. My mom's half Egyptian, half Italian, my dad's Indian. So I grew up around a lot of cultures. So food was a really big part of my childhood. And you empower people to travel like around the world a little bit through a meal, right? And think about that bonding that happens over a meal, like firemen, for example, bond over their meals. So eating and a meal experience is very bonding and powerful experience. So I really appreciated that. And then there's the buying cycle. People eat 3 times a day, 7 times a week. So you have that opportunity to engage and iterate on your marketing. That's kind of the science approach to it. Like an experiment, you're iterating on it multiple times. So you could do that, 3 times 7, 21 times a week. Versus if you're marketing for a car, you got to wait for that buying cycle 10 years or whatever. Right? So that's why I chose food. And it just so happened at the time that I had a friend opening a restaurant, Chef Matthew Carmichael, good friend of mine, very good mentor as well, when it comes to the food industry, was opening El Camino. So he goes, and I'd taken the summer off actually to kind of realign that career marketing wise. He goes, would you like to do marketing for this new restaurant in El Camino? So I said, okay. We wrote the tagline, Eat El Camino is our brand. So we came up with that, named that. And then we came up with Diner Riviera down the line for a more formal approach to that. So that's a little aside. But he goes, this was the first interesting business deal I ever signed, School Hard Knocks, free tequilas and tacos for life if you do marketing. So we did the marketing for a summer. You can take a guess how long that lasted. I think it lasted about 4 months. And it's funny, we both sat each other down. I said, Matt, I can't do this with tequilas and taco anymore. I'm dying over here, bro. And he's like, I can't afford it for you either anyways.
We could have had the Synapcity meetings at El Camino.
Yeah,
I love that spot. Shout out to them. Many
yeah.
tacos have been eaten by me and
So
friends along the way. So that's awesome.
great brand, yeah. But I couldn't afford health-wise to continue eating Synapcity, and you can afford financially to keep funding that. So I had to start accepting money, and then was doing all the restaurants there, got some more. Next thing I knew, I had a restaurant marketing company, and that's a story on that journey. We ended up selling it 2 years ago to web marketers, and they've taken the business and run with it, and I've since stepped back. But that's the marketing story there.
Yeah, I love it. Love the idea for the storytelling. I love the fact that kind of documentaries are in your family as well. I also love documentaries, watch many a week. We've got an upcoming documentary that Synapsy is going to be a part of in 2024 on Dave Meslin's book. So stay tuned for that for our listeners and watchers. And yeah, just great to hear a little bit more about your journey. We meet at Synapsy, but we don't necessarily get to talk and go back. So fascinating backstory. So you talked a little bit about founding companies, and there's probably too many to mention. We talked a little bit about the restaurant marketing. I know you've got a snack delivery. I know you've got a few others. So tell us a little bit about kind of why you're founding so many companies, and are there any favorites that you've done so far? Obviously, the ones that you've exited maybe your favorites, but any favorites that you can sort of mention so far?
Sure, totally. The snack one was, I'll start with the snack. The snack one was super fun, and it's still running. We're phasing it out a little bit slowly, but it's still running. But it was an amazing learning experience. Everyone loves snack, right? And affectionately, friends call me sometimes the snack lord, which is kind of funny. But everyone loves snacks. We coincided it with the legalization of weed, actually, just coincidentally. So snacks have exploded since then, as you can imagine. So it became a really exciting space, but it became a really exciting space to learn a little bit more about last mile delivery and quick service concepts, so Q-commerce. So really, it was like a fun project that started to be a really interesting revenue generating, quite interesting in the revenue generating side. But that was a really interesting journey, good and bad. Sometimes I'm learning from the operation, but I really appreciate the company and that learnings that I have, because it's funneled into my current initiative that I'll talk about a little bit more. But one of the things that I really noticed was that I like to build it, and this kind of comes from the environmental side, but I love to build businesses with purpose. And it was Naz Ahmed from Camspop that I was having coffee with him, or having a Zoom, I can remember. And he imparted to me that a lot of entrepreneurs feel like they have to build a business, and they get stuck running the day-to-day business. And maybe they started with a mission or a goal, but they get stuck in the minutiae of the business. But if you really stop and think and take the time, you realize that you can build a business with purpose. And so now I really try to look for things where I can build a business with purpose. not always the case in some of them. They've always had a goal. Like when we opened the ghost kitchen, fast food kitchens, it was to operationalize underutilized commercial kitchen space during COVID, which we identified to be buffets, food courts, and banquet halls and event centers. And so that was a way of empowering a restaurant owner to generate profit during a downtime. But as we started to run that, it started to change and started to become just a restaurant. And now it's called Get Fresh, Parlay by Get Fresh. And the guys are running it, and it's great, and I love them. I think they've done an amazing job, but it's straight away from that mission for me. And so that was the mission. Like, I love food, but I wanted to do it with purpose, and that was the helping operations underutilized kitchen space, which is now a permanent thing. So it doesn't check that box for me anymore. So building things with purpose, I really believe you can do it, and really hat tip to that for realigning my career there. But that's really what I look for now, as well as a cultural fit. So two people can be passionate about the same idea. I don't think that's necessarily enough. I think you have to be a very good cultural fit with that person, and then you can tackle any idea or any problem if you work well together. And so in the current iteration of the work that I'm doing, it's working with a drone delivery company called Hover, and working with another robotics company called Real Life Robotics. But my day-to-day is with Hover right now, and the founder of the company, Cameron Rowe. We have a great cultural fit, and we have a really good synergy in yin and yang. We did a presentation in the boardroom for Pizza the other day to commercial drone delivery across Canada, and it was, I have to be honest, it felt great doing it with them. It was like a synchronized swimming number. We were just really in sync. So culturally, there's a fit there, and I love the fact that I can look at this guy across the table and say, I think we can tackle any problem together. We're a good yin and yang. So that's what I look for now on the entrepreneurship side. And it's being like a creative enabler for businesses. So having the marketing company, we implemented a lot of delivery programs, marketing and delivery programs for restaurants. And especially during COVID, you got to tangibly see how these delivery programs at the time changed people's lives. A restaurateur would be like, thank God that, you helped me get my delivery up and running. I can make my mortgage payments now. And so that was a real great payoff. It was a real great feeling. But now that delivery is a little bit more prominent, restaurants are having a hard time making their margins on it. And the reason was Uber was a little more forgiving on their commissions, that they used to take 15% or so at the start. Now they've upped it to 30. And so restaurants are really suffering with inflation, food costs, labor shortages, fleet costs for delivery, and then they're operating with big tech takes a big chunk. So at Hover, we're really looking at empowering business owners with delivery that's not just environmentally sustainable, but economically sustainable. And so that we think that's a big part of sustainability that stems from my background as an environmental scientist, recognizing that people don't implement sustainable tech unless it's economically friendly and environmentally friendly. You have to check both of those for it to be truly sustainable on the adoption side anyway. So our EV drones have savings on both sides, and we're really approaching delivery different. I won't bore you with the secret sauce there, but our goal is to empower business owners to operate affordable, environmentally and economically sustainable delivery programs for not just the owners, but people at home as well, so people can afford to order food and stuff, because it's getting really expensive out there. So we're building that business with that purpose in mind, and there's a business model as well. And so that's kind of what I look for on that side now.
Yeah, that's really neat. I love the drone delivery. I mean, one day I might get a pizza for a drone, and I'll have to think of you. But yeah, probably if you added up all the GHG emissions from the food delivery service across even Canada or North America, you'd have a huge amount there. So really good point on the sustainability angle. So let's pivot a little bit here. Let's talk about Creative Mornings. Another thing that you helped found. You helped to start the Ottawa chapter. So tell us a little bit about this project and what drew you to starting the Ottawa chapter of Creative Mornings. I know you recently had an event too, I saw on your socials.
Sorry about that, friend, into the frame there. Creative Mornings started as an interesting journey. It was, it's funny, I was telling the story today because I actually went this morning. But I was a lobbyist at the time. We're getting a little experience in the advocacy side. And I was really looking for a source of inspiration and motivated to work, and couldn't find it. And I happened across on the internet a designer called Swift Knits out of New York. And she was running Creative Mornings. And at the time, Ottawa wasn't really ready for it. And I went off to Vancouver. And when I came back, the entrepreneurial movement had just happened. Shopify was here. People were getting laid off with the government and deciding to start side hustles as well. So it was a great time. Ottawa needed inspiration. People were being creative and they were leaning into it. And so we started it. And we were one of the five original chapters from around the world. And if you don't know, Creative Mornings, I'm making this lecture series for creative. It happens on the last Friday of every month. There's a complimentary breakfast, a 15-minute talk, and 15-minute Q&A. And the idea is to return you back to the office with a source of inspiration. So it feels great. And so people, the community responded really positively to it. I did it for about 5-6 years and handed it off to a really capable team. And they've grown it. And like I said, I was so happy to see it today and how it's grown and people's energy and the positive effect that it's having on people's lives and people having that light bulb moment. You're looking for that light bulb moment in the audience when people are talking, and you see it happening. And so it's really warms my heart to see that. But that's something I'm really proud of having brought to Ottawa with my co-founder, Mike Grigoriev, as well. So I have to give him a hat tip as well, because he did a lot of the heavy lifting physically, literally, and figuratively.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous. Nice to hear that project's still going, and kind of neat feeling, right? Kind of having stepped away a little bit, but still being able to go to the events, maybe speak at them sometimes, and watch that grow like a child, right? Like definitely neat. So one thing I'm wondering, we've already got a good feel for you're doing a lot. How do you manage all your time and all your requests? Are you kind of chunking off parts of your day to say, hey, this is my fun time, this is my tech time, this is my science time? Are you a morning person, a night owl? Take us through a little bit about how you kind of manage your schedule and day.
But anyone who knows me knows that I'm not that great at it. I think I had 2 demos in 2 different cities this week, and I still managed to do it. I left the house at 5 a.m. and got back at 5 a.m. the next day. I had to go to Toronto. But it's about, yeah, that's a tough question. I try to check those boxes, man. So I have what I have is those like imperatives personally and on the professional side, and it's a work in progress. I've started like journaling and stuff this year and cutting back on certain health things this year. I'm in a 90-day detox phase right now. So definitely, trying to take care of myself. And I had a massive business partner, Adrian, from Family Pop, once told me, if you want to run like a Ferrari, you gotta tune your body like a Ferrari. I don't always do a good job of that. Entrepreneurs are known for that, but I try to do it every now and then. So that's a key thing, healthy levels of sleep, but making sure it checks those pockets. So I really like to work with people, to collaborate with people, like really increase, like if I was to say my personal North Star metric would be knowledge collisions. Increasing the amount of knowledge collisions I have on my day-to-day basis is my North Star metric. So making sure that it checks that box, making sure I'm talking to people that are cultural fit and building things with purpose is the other ones. And then again, those 3 things: exciting, engaging, empowering people. So those are those are what guide my compass internally. On the time side, I can really push it sometimes. Anyone who knows that, or anyone who's dated me, probably knows that. And I'm working on that. I guess it's a work in progress.
Yeah, absolutely. No, nice to have a lot of things juggling. Kind of fuels the energy, right? So let's talk a little bit about Synapcity now. And you joined the board earlier this year. I'm curious, how's your experience been so far?
I love it. One of my goals this year was to get back into the civic organization on the nonprofit side and join the board again. And so that was something that Glennis says, Glennis, you can help me check that box. And I love the idea. I think Ottawa's under a lot of flux. We're growing as a city. It's great. I love the opportunity to bring thought leadership forward, and really change the brand of Ottawa and like what activates in people's 5 senses when they think of Ottawa here and abroad. I think that's our goal as members of the Ottawa public is for all of us work on that. But as civil leaders, if we want to be thought leaders, that's part of the thing that we have to do. And so, SNAP's a great organization. I used to see them at the hub back in the day and seen how they've grown. The board, including yourself, are great people to work with. And so I'm super excited about helping revive the brand and have some positive impact on how we spread the fabric of Ottawa moving forward into 2024.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. We're happy to have you on board. It's a great energy. It's nice to have people kind of with that startup frame of mind and being able to bootstrap a little bit too, which is important for nonprofits. Share with us your vision of the future of Synapcity. What could you see out of us? I know everyone on the board and myself has those visions. So what could you see for Synapcity in 5 or 10 years?
Sure. Yeah, great question. I think the process for public consultation is a bit broken, and a bit biased and a bit boring, to be honest. It's not a great way to engage people. We're just sending forms. And then it's got a little bit of a built-in bias, whereas I don't want to say ignorance is bliss, but if we're asking people how they want to utilize their public spaces, for example, they're only going to suggest things that they've seen in their local surroundings, unless they've traveled abroad or something like that. So if we're asking the broad majority, it's only things that they've been exposed to. But there's so many other things out there. and they're not going to see them unless we showcase it to them. And that's how we bring those external, exciting, new, empowering installations or uses of public spaces to Ottawa. So I see that as our goal. And so ultimately, years from now, I'd love for Synapcity to be a model for creative public engagement. And that means also exciting them about things happening around the world. To use those words again, I guess, to harken back to those words.
Yeah, we're so Ottawa driven, but it's so important to take those inspirations from around the world and say, hey, if this worked in Paris, if they could go without cars, why can't we go without cars, right? And sort of say, okay, maybe that can help us drive some change in the city as well. So excited to build it with you, Shairf. I know we also have a fundraising event in November. I won't release too many details because it's still on the works, but yourself and Glennis have been kind of working on lead on it. Any little nuggets that we can share right now on the podcast about the fundraising event?
I will say keep your ears peeled for the details coming out about it. We will be celebrating our failures with a view on empowering ourselves moving forward for the future of Ottawa. I'm doing a lot of media lines today, but yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting,
right?
There'll be some laughing involved. Yeah, some goof gaps and guffaws.
So stay tuned for our social media channels for information about our amazing fundraising event in November. We hope folks can come out, support Synapcity any way you can. So Shairf, you're a founder, which means you're always starting things. So I'm wondering what's coming up for you, and what's kind of coming up for you. You mentioned quite a few things you're involved in, but anything that you're looking for 2024 and say, I want to do this, or I'm getting involved in that. Give us a little preview.
Yeah, it's the drone delivery and robot delivery more so. Is what I'm focused on for 2024, and really helping bring a human-centric form of robot design to the world. So we're not looking to replace people; we're looking to be a tool in their lives and empower them to do better in their jobs. And so if we can make a difference in business owners' lives, facilitate access to fresh food for Canadians at home, and also better the working conditions of food couriers right now through job retraining as drone operators or whatever it might be. Those are what I'm looking to do in 2024. So keep an eye out for things from real life robotics and hover drones. Hopefully pizza delivery in your backyard or on your driveway from hover. Or also we may be 85%. We're on Dragon's Den this fall as well. We're still waiting for the final version word of the production.
Oh, neat! Approval. I just watched that last night. It's a great show. Love the entrepreneurs going on there. So yeah, do let us know, and we'll promote that on our Synapcity channels. And it sounds like you and I should get over to El Camino and see if your discount still applies. So we'll have to do that. I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I suspect it's not, but we can give it a go.
Yeah, we can. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast today, Shairf. Any last words for our Synapcity audience?
No, just I guess feel free to reach out to me. I'm the Scribbler on Twitter and IG, and yeah, always willing to chat. And like I said, personally, my North Star metric is knowledge religion. So shoot me a message if you ever want to chat or bend each other's ears. And thanks a lot. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, we'll add your Instagram, we'll add your Twitter onto the show notes so people can check that out. And yeah, really appreciate it. So thanks for coming on the podcast, and stay tuned for all the great things coming from Shairf and from Synapcity. Cheers, everybody.
Sounds good, guys.
Thank you for watching Community Connections, brought to you by Synapcity. Be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Until next time, stay connected.